is huge. I mean, it's like a man. It's big.
Kane's son.
You still don't understand what you're dealing with, do you? Perfect organism.
Just tell me one thing, Burke. You're going out there to destroy them, right? Not to study, not to bring back, but to wipe them out.
That's the plan. You have my word on it.
All right, I'm in.
Let's rock!
Don't look back, dude! Run as fast as you can!
Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair.
Welcome to Perfect Organism, the Alien Saga Podcast. I'm Andie, your host for today. I am very excited to introduce my three fabulous guests who you may remember from previous appearances on episodes hosted by Jamie, Patrick, Christian. With me today are Clara Carja, a longtime Alien fan, co-author of Alien Inferno's Fall, and the upcoming sequel, Alien Seventh Circle, as well as a contributor to various books, games within the Alien universe. Welcome back, Clara.
Thank you so much for having me back. It's really great to be back on Perfect Organism as a guest.
We're excited. So thank you. Thank you for being here. Also joining us is Shiromi Arserio, voice actor and an award-winning narrator of a number of audiobooks, including Alien Into Charybdis, Alien Colony War, and Alien Enemy of My Enemy. So glad you can join us. Welcome back.
Thank you. Also, Alien Bishop.
Oh, right.
Just to add one more to the list. Thank you for having me back.
Awesome. Of course. And finally, we have Julianna Kurokawa, who you may recognize as the voice of Micah Hayes from Aliens Dark Descent. She's an actress whose recent work includes a recurring guest role in Avenue 5 on HBO, as well as guest roles on The Witcher, Peripheral, and she will be seen in upcoming feature films, including The Gorge, alongside Anya Taylor-Joy, Miles Teller, and our space mom herself, Sigourney Weaver. I'm excited about that. So welcome, everybody. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us. It's exciting to be here.
So speaking of Sigourney, I'm so happy we could all be here for our first female-only episode, where we're really going to just dive deep into the legacy of Ellen Ripley, what she meant to us as either little girls if we first saw it then, or young women, what she means to us today. And hopefully a few other themes along the way. We'll see where it takes us. So I thought I would start out, if you could just introduce yourself in terms of your first introduction to Ripley. Which film was it? What was the feeling you remember? Was there a moment that you knew you were hooked by her story?
You've been in my life so long, I can't remember anything else.
For me, I would say, oh, by the way, this is Clara. And my first introduction to Ripley would have been in Alien 1979. I was rewatching it not rewatching it. I was watching it with my cousin when I was like 3 years old. Ripley was fearless. She was someone who could like take charge of a situation when things were kind of like going to hell. And even though she was like stressing out as well, she found a way to kind of persevere. And that sort of, I guess, instinct with her character, even showing as early as like with Jonesy. Sorry, I was trying to remember the name of the cat. I've got a friend's cat who is very similar, but they call the cat Ripley, and I knew that that wasn't the name. But yeah, like even her going after the cat, you know, these are sort of things that as a kid, I'm like, oh my God, save it. So yeah, like for me, I felt very much in her shoes. I felt that fear. I felt that chaos, and I felt the need to save the cat as well. That's just for me.
Of course. I mean, who doesn't want to save a little kid? What about you, Shiromi?
I think for me, so I first watched Aliens. I watched that one first, and I was probably about 8 years old. Um, I think a lot of this is going to get repeated by everybody else too. Just her take charge nature. Here's this woman who's clearly traumatized, although obviously as a child, I'm not processing that as such. But, she's around these big macho Marines, and yet she's the one that saves the day. She saves them with the APC. She's the one that's like carrying Hicks, to get out. She goes back for Newt. It's all her. And that just always stuck with me. Because it made me feel like, oh, okay. Like I was way too young to have any concepts of sexism or anything like that, but it was something that stayed with me. That concept that women can do that.
Now you freely admit to detonating the engines of and thereby destroying an M-class star freighter, a rather expensive piece of hardware.
42 million in adjusted dollars. That's minus payload, of course.
The lifeboat's flight recorder corroborates some elements of your account, in that, for reasons unknown, the Nostromo set down on LV-426, an unsurveyed planet at that time, that it resumed its course and was subsequently set for self-destruct by you for reasons unknown.
Not for reasons unknown. I told you. We sat down there on company orders to get this thing, which destroyed my crew and your expensive ship.
I feel the same. Aliens was also my first. And Julianna, what about you?
So I didn't see them as a child. I saw a double bill of Alien and Aliens when I was in my 20s in the cinema. They were doing a rerun. And I wish I'd seen it when I was younger, because I think it would have been amazing to have that impression of what else it can mean to be a woman, that we don't often see, or, I think we see it more now, but at the time there was much more conformity with how a woman is perceived or should be in society, in the media, and seeing, her strength, her intelligence, her bravery, her lack of people pleasing, but still being able to be caring and empathetic, and it doesn't have to come at that cost. I feel like those are all things that I'm, having to work on in my adult life. And I wonder if maybe having those ideas instilled in me from a younger age actually would have helped me, to hold on to those, notions and embody them when I was younger. So I wish I'd seen it when I was younger, but it was still amazing to see when I was older, and to appreciate like how groundbreaking it would have been at that time, because she still is, I think, a very rare character.
I love that answer, because I know you had seen it later. I think most of us as a little girl, and that's really when she made that indelible mark on me. And I am grateful that I had that experience. I grew up with two brothers. It was a pretty sort of conservative household in terms of, it wasn't too bad, but there was a sort of expectation about certain gender roles. And she always, when I saw that film, my immediate inspiration was she used her voice. Even when it was difficult, right? She knew it wasn't always the easiest thing to say. And that is probably my greatest takeaway from her, more than like the badassery and all the cool stuff she does. It was not backing down and just making her voice heard. And I think when I was little, I probably subconsciously channeled that, like it like infused within me. But now, as I got older, and I know this is going to sound super cheesy, but I often found myself asking, like, what would Ripley do in this situation? And as hokey as that sound, to me, it was always like she had this tremendous sense of justice and this insistence on speaking the truth. And there are times when it was super hard to do, and I probably failed miserably many times. But there were moments where I think I summoned Ripley in some way, and it inspired me. I think that mantra just inspired me. And that is probably my biggest takeaway as a young girl that has carried me over into my adult life. And I was wondering, I mean, as a young adult, even in your 20s, is there something about her that you do call upon or you do try to emulate when the situation it might be a little tricky?
I really love that. I think I'm going to ask myself, well, more frequently because I don't do it. What would Ripley do to help guide me through life? I think, yeah, and to add to that, I think something that she doesn't let people take her power. And like, there's the bit in Alien 3 where she goes to the table and Dylan's there, and he, says that he should stay away from her because he's dangerous. And she just replies, "Really? I guess I must make you nervous." And I that really sticks in my head because I'm not great at speaking up in certain moments, and her ability to just very calmly, maintain her power and not allow him to take it when he is trying to, is something that I aspire to, to move through life with, I guess.
Right. And I think as women, we often find ourselves in that situation where we're expected to not say anything or push back. So I love that. I'm sure it applies to your career, right? Certain moments of career, but just in life in general. Clara, what about you? Any moments where you felt called upon to summon the power of Ripley?
For me, I would say in high school, it was really tough for me. I got bullied a lot. I found it really hard to find my own voice. And it was around that time when Alien Resurrection was coming out. That's when I experienced it. And it was so transformative for me. Because after seeing Alien 3 and very, very, very sad and felt a bit ripped off about the death of Ripley, seeing her come back, even just as Ripley 8, to see that, what is it? Having her own voice, not being afraid to talk back. But kind of being cheeky. And that kind of gave me the strength to stand up to those bullies, when you see a character like Jonna, and it seems like nearly every bully seems to be like him, you need to muster up some sort of icon, someone who can kind of change that situation. So when I was getting bullied and stuff, I was thinking of Ripley in the Power Loader, Ripley, playing basketball and hitting Jonna in the face, all that sort of stuff. I really loved that kind of rebellious attitude as a woman. And not taking things sitting down. She just doesn't take any crap. Even in a lot of the other films with 1979, Alien, she's the one who says I don't want to break quarantine. You're not allowed in here. She's actually saying it to the captain. I mean, that's got to be pretty ballsy to me.
Did IQs just drop sharply while I was away? Ma'am, I already said that it was not indigenous. It was a derelict spacecraft. It was an alien ship. It was not from there. Do you get it? We homed in on its beacon.
And found something never recorded once in over 300 surveyed worlds. A creature that gestates inside a living human host. Yes. These are your words. And has concentrated acid for blood.
That's right. Look, I can see where this is going. But I'm telling you that those things exist.
Thank you, Officer Ripley. That will be all.
Please, you're not listening to me. Kane, the crew member. Kane, who went into that ship, said he saw thousands of eggs there. Thousands.
Thank you. That will be all.
God damn it! That's not all. Because if one of those things gets down here, then that will be all. Then all this bullshit that you think is so important, you can just kiss all that goodbye.
Yeah, absolutely. I loved when all those memes were. Did you guys see all that like during the pandemic? I saw that one a lot where she's like, "We can't break quarantine." Everyone's like, "Just listen to the woman." Um, but I love how that resonated like 30, plus years later. Um, yeah, I could imagine in high school is just so rough, always. So I'm glad you got through it. I'm glad you had the strength to stand up for yourself. And Shiromi, how about you?
Oh, that's a tough one. Because as much as I'd love to be Ripley, I feel I'm probably in reality more of a Lambert. It's that's really interesting. I don't know that I've necessarily called up specifically Ripley because there was certainly like a pantheon of goddess characters like her. So it was always the strength of one of those that has always been my guiding star. But I know that I do spend a lot of time around guys. I'm a board gamer and stuff, and generally, I have game groups where I'm around a lot of guys and stuff. So it does. I try to call upon Ripley there because, like if you're watching Alien and you see like breakfast scene and everything, you see like how much space the guys take up in the room, how much energy they take up. Parker, he's so loud but Ripley's, you know, she's there. She's owning her space without having to say stuff and, be the center of attention or anything like that.
Do you find it's still like, so you said you're a gamer. I know you're into board games a lot. Would you say you're mostly playing with men, like you said? Are there times when you feel like they take over and you feel like you kind of have to fight for your voice? Or is it sort of mellowed out at this point?
Yeah,
I'm
there can
curious.
be. No,
Okay.
yeah, there can be. I actually stopped gaming with a group mostly because of like one particular person who we'll call as being the Parker of the group, just totally obnoxious. Board gaming in general, I mean, there's definitely more women involved in the hobby now, which is thank goodness. And I have another game group where it's 50% women and 50% men, and there's definitely a very different vibe.
I love that. So I think we all have different favorites, although sure, I mean, I'm with you, I'm an Aliens girl. But I love them all. I love every iteration. And I've been thinking a lot about how, I mean, each movie really is a different version of Ripley that we're seeing, right? We know she goes through so many changes. And I think at various moments in my life, I probably identified with all three versions of her. And now that I'm a mother, I definitely think the Aliens version sticks out with me, not just from the protective aspect where she's, will do anything for Newt, but I love that instinct of hers to just sort of value this little girl's intelligence and resilience and encourage her also to find her voice and know that she has something to contribute, which is something I definitely want to encourage, and I try to with my children. So I'm just wondering, is there a definitive version of her that you either identify with the most or you sort of have clung to the most in terms of, where she's at, her mindset, and not just maybe not from your favorite movie, but just in general, like, are there various aspects that you have taken that you admire her in different time periods?
Wow, that's a lot. Okay. I think for me, this is really weird because like it's probably Ripley in Alien 3. Jamie knows that I don't particularly like Alien 3, and I know he absolutely loves it. So I'm sorry, Jamie. But for me, With Alien 3, it was a very challenging film. We see Ripley kind of like coming to a point where she's actually like really tired. And she's just fed up. But at the same time, she knows she has to keep going. And having so many like guys depending on her, guys who are supposed to be rough, tough, mean, would want her dead, would want to take advantage of her sexually, to also like just scare her. Like you brought up before, you know, like, oh, you're a woman here, like, and oh, that must scare you, you know. For me, actually, for that film, for me, it felt more like motherhood, the crappy part. The late nights, the slogging, the crying, the screaming. And I felt like Ripley in that film. Like you just think it's never going to end. And sometimes you do want to plunge into some boiling lead. But I love kids. And having lost, I guess, her daughter at that time, which like I didn't really know about until I watched the behind the scenes. But looking back on it retroactively and then understanding it as a mother now, it's just so much loss. It's so painful. It's a really challenging film because like all of her agency is taken away. All of that stuff that really kind of made me admire her is kind of like torn apart from her. And that, and like losing like someone who kind of felt like was understanding to her, like Hicks, to lose a second daughter like Newt, then to be confronted with a whole bunch of men who are threatening her, and then being confronted with the fact that she's holding the enemy in herself. That's so much. I felt that through the pregnancy with the baby kicking. I felt that through losing myself through the motherhood. But in the end, you just like pull yourself together and you're the strongest, you know, like, you know, dad must have like worked all day and like crashed out. You have to cook dinner, you have to bath the kids, you need to do all of these things, despite the fact that you feel dead tired and you feel like everything's been taken from you. But, you know, like we're lucky we don't have to come back to life like Ripley ate. Our children do grow up. Our partners do end up respecting us and we do end up getting our lives back. And I think holding on to that made it all more bearable. So in a way, Alien 3 is the most inspiring for motherhood for me, even though aspects of motherhood are entirely not present.
Do you have any news about my daughter?
Well, we did come up with some information. Why don't we sit down? I was hoping to wait until after the inquest. Amanda Ripley McLaren, married name, I guess, age 66. And that was at the time of her death, which was 2 years ago. I'm real sorry.
I love the honesty of that answer because it's so true at times. You just made me think of that in a completely different way. But it's honest. And I think we don't, you know, as women and, you know, mothers, some of us, I don't think we tend to talk about, or we don't feel like we can talk about those aspects. So I really appreciate that answer. I think it's a great one. Julianna, what about you in terms of which one do you identify with?
It's funny because I was going to talk about motherhood as well, but a different a different aspect of it, I guess. I think I don't know if I want to have, I don't have children. I don't know if I do want to have children. If I do have children, I don't know if I'm that tied to them having to biologically be mine. You know, I'm open to adoption or fostering, or it might get to age being the deciding factor in that. And I think seeing that connection with her and Newton, how she is with her, gives me a lot of optimism, because I think there's also a lot of fear when I think about motherhood, or if I were to become a mother, would I be a good mother? I had a very complicated relationship growing up with my own, and I think that scares me about having children, you know, in any capacity. And even then, like, oh, but if I choose not to have a biological child, will it mean that I love them less? You know, all those kinds of thoughts that you don't want to have of yourself, but you're like, but what if that is the case? And yeah, seeing the dynamic, I find very hopeful. And I like to keep it as a reminder, you know, that all those fears are at this stage just that, and things will be as they are, and you deal with them as and when you get to them. But that it doesn't have to be what you're afraid of. So yeah, interesting that motherhood for both of us, but in very different ways.
I hope I haven't put you off it. It's really amazing and transformative being a mum. And I think, yeah, you're right. Like, I was afraid before I had my kids. Will I be a good mother? I had a complicated growing up as well. And yeah, like, it's definitely, I think, a fear that all of us kind of have.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's the highs, the lows, everything in between. And I think it's completely normal to feel every one of those, right? Which is basically, in certain ways, in regards to Newt, she feels that. In regards to her own daughter, she feels that. But just in general, like fear of loss, right? This tremendous responsibility. And yeah, great answers. And Shiromi, how about you?
Okay. Gosh. Well, okay. So mine isn't related to motherhood. Mine is related to, I guess her. So I've never experienced PTSD, but in Aliens, when she makes the decision, when she calls Burke and tells him she's in, because this is a person that's been bruised, battered ever since she got back to Earth. You know, she's been ridiculed. They haven't believed her. You know, they put her through the ringer, and she has every reason to say no, to say, I am done with this. Why wouldn't you? It's not her problem. And that's a version that I think I've held on to, because, you know, there's how many points in your life where, you know, you want to be, you're just like, I'm at my breaking point here. But you have to get back on that horse, to quote Burke, to get back on that horse. And that's, I admire her for that. I admire her ability to face it, what come what may.
Yeah, she had so many people working against her, so to speak, right? That no one believing her, her, you know, them thinking she's out of her mind, or, you know, she's been floating around for 57 years. So what is she talking about? And I kind of want to use that as a jumping point too, in terms of, you know, talking about how some of the other characters respond to her, or interact with her, and vice versa. And what that how that either causes her to grow and fight back, or lifts her up. Like, one of my absolute favorite characters aside from Ripley is Hicks. I love Hicks. I'm unabashedly in love with him, because I feel he's this, you know, outwardly tough, he's competent, he's the soldier, but he's also just unabashedly empathetic. He's nurturing in a way, he's thoughtful, he notices her and everything. And to me, and going back to just being this little girl, I was like 12 years old, just seeing his interactions with her and vice versa, he never diminished her. He respected her. right? And her, not only her strength, her intelligence, the fact that he knew she was probably the smartest one in the room. She was. And for me, especially in the 80s, where, and I love 80s films, but, you know, it was rare to see that, you know, interaction, especially between men and women. That relationship was formative for me because I knew that's what I want. You know, I want a partner, or I want to work with people like that. And I never let go of that. It always set a standard for me. So I'm wondering if there's either, it could be the opposite. It could be characters that maybe, you know, had the worst relationship with her that you knew, like, I don't want this. Or were there any other characters that she sort of interacted with that, you know, you either noticed or you sort of took value in and you respected them even more?
Okay, so when we're going through interactions, I'll go through the films as they were released. So for Aliens, like for me, I watched Aliens and Alien at the same time, kind of. So in Aliens, for me, I would say it is Hicks. He has a really nurturing sort of attitude. Like he even like when Newt's like standing at the map table, you know, he picks her up and puts her on the table so she can have a look. You know, even Ripley like goes like, well, she survived 2 weeks. There's this thing where there is this unabashed confidence in her having that in Newt. And I think it's really great because like Newt's been through trauma, she's been through trauma. They're kind of like holding on to each other like a life raft and waiting for like the chaos to calm down. And then like, you know, at the end, like, you know, is it safe to dream? And she's like, yeah, it's safe. And like, I was like, oh, that's so nurturing and warm. And you know, having Hicks there being taken care of by Ripley, like looking at her, like when she's going off back into the hive, he's like, yeah, you know, you've got this. There's none of this, like, are you going to be okay? I'm so worried about you. Like, are you sure you don't want me to go? Because I'm injured, but like, obviously I'm the man. I'm going to like save the day. He just lets her go because he sees her as an unstoppable force. And that sort of respect, like I want that out of a relationship. I want that out of my friends. I would like that out of every person that I meet because that sort of like backing, that sort of like go, woo, is sometimes what we need from people around us. I wouldn't say especially from guys, but it's really nice to have it from guys because I feel like it's very rare. We're usually cut down, we're usually gaslit, we're usually doubted. And to have someone be in our corner, no matter what sex they are, is really like helpful and empowering, nurturing. And yeah, that's what I love about Hicks's character reacting to her in Aliens. I like the fact in Alien, she was strong and the last standing, she fought Ash. She, you know, like was managed to like really try to like get a hold of the situation. And it's that like absolute fervor for survival. And yeah, just not really overpowering Ash because she was at a vulnerable point, but being able to depend on other people, having like Parker and like step in and like try to like hit him with a friggin' extinguisher, like that's full on. And then in Alien 3, I would say her interaction with Dylan, because it's remarkable because like she does give up at one point and he doesn't want to kill her. He's like, no, like you've got to do this. You can't leave us with that thing, you know? And there's not this doubt like, oh yeah, if we kill her, then we get rid of the threat. And of course, Alien Resurrection, when she's interacting with Cole, because she is not human and Cole's not human. But out of like the whole film, they show the most humanity. And even though it's like in the cut scene where they're both in the church and they're kind of both not creations of God, but they have that conversation about religion, and like, what do you believe? And I think it does make me question about like going forward into the future, what our interactions are going to be like with artificial people. Are we going to see them as equals? Will they remain tools? Will we become a part of them? And yeah, just having that open mind, being open-minded to artificial people, even after what's happened with her in the past, even though this is like resurrected Ripley 8, I feel that she has this way of still changing. In every single film, she changes. Like her opinions with Ash change with Bishop. Her opinions of like criminals changed with 3. Her opinions of artificial people changed with Alien Resurrection. And I think that for me, with her transformative like journey with all of those other characters and the interactions, kind of really made her a really whole character for me, someone who to like really embody with my interactions with other people as well.
I love that. You took us through the whole gamut.
I'm sorry, I tend to do that. I hope I haven't taken the words out of other people's mouths, but like I'm really enjoying this nerding out with you guys. I mean, you girls. It's just really great.
Same. No, absolutely the same for me. Shiromi, what about you?
Okay, well, I cannot not touch on Hicks, obviously, for obvious reasons. He, as everybody has already said, he's strong and all of that stuff, but also caring, intuitive. I actually was thinking, because I just watched the whole just a few various clips from Alien, and I was looking at the breakfast scene. I was like, that kind of reminds me, like Ripley's position in that movie reminds me of Hicks in the equivalent movie, in Aliens, that whole, cornbread scene and everything. He's kind of, they were all joshing and stuff, and he's kind of a little bit set back. I don't know if it's because they both have a position where they're, sort of in charge. They're both like, in the chain of command, or whether that's just their personalities. But they're very similar characters, I think. And yes, that 100% definitely influenced me. I was in love with Michael Biehn. Hicks, really, but
same.
And I wanted that. I feel like I got it. Yes. So I'm only going to touch on that relationships that I knew I did not want in my life. Alien, Parker, as I said, he I mean, he does come through in the end, but generally he spends a lot of the movie just being one of those guys. And I'm no Ripley. And let's face it, he was even pissing off Ripley. So I knew I didn't want to be around those kind of people, which is why I left that game group. But also Lambert, too. I feel like that's a relationship we're talking about, because they're the only 2 women on the ship. But Lambert, like, consistently undermines Ripley, and that's, which I think is true in real life, too. That, you want to be, in workplace or whatever group friendship settings where women are supporting each other. But there's plenty of times where, for one reason or another, women are undermining each other for, whether it's because, they think there's a scarcity of resources and, they have to be the person on top. So, yeah, I definitely knew I did not want that in my life at all.
Agree with the Lambert thing. When she slapped Ripley, I was like, ooh.
I know, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, like you have to cut, like you feel like you almost have to cut each other down to lift yourself up.
I think what attracted me to Ellen Ripley was that she, first of all, was a character that was written as a man. So it was written in a very straightforward way. This was a kind of direct person who didn't have these scenes where she was suddenly vulnerable, and she didn't, throw her hands up and wait for someone else to save her. She was a thinking, moving, deciding creature. And I think that's the other thing that interested me, was that she went from someone who sort of believed that the world was a certain way to someone who couldn't believe in anything anymore, and went from someone who's sort of a thinking person to someone who's kind of an instinctive animal. So there were lots of progressions in the character that I just thought would be very interesting to play.
Julianna, what about you?
I think Dylan and her relationship with him, and I love seeing the transformation. And with all of them at the end, how much they come to get on board with her, like, to the point where they're willing to sacrifice everything, for her and to support her. And I just love that transformation and seeing that. So that's one for me.
I love that. I love how we all brought different things, and I love what you don't want to. I think that's important too, right? Like recognizing, nope, it's not for me. Obviously we could throw Burke into the mix too, right? A wolf in sheep's clothing. I'm really not a bad guy. And we all know when you usually have to say that is usually when our spidey senses go up. I don't know about you, but definitely for me. But
yeah, definitely. I would say so.
Yeah. Let's get to the ultimate question, which is, what do we think the legacy of Ellen Ripley is for us on culture? I know you have all been involved in various works within the Alien universe and beyond. Do you think her legacy has extended into work beyond what you like, stuff you've worked on beyond that? What do we think is her ultimate legacy? Because we are still talking about her, right? 45 years later, it's crazy. And she's still so prominently featured in memes on the internet of people, people, especially women, who look toward her as a role model. So I'm wondering what you think her ultimate legacy has been, continues to be. I know it's a really broad question, but
okay. For me, I'll talk about, like, I guess, my work. So with Pip, who is the main author, because I only co-wrote the story, but she's an amazing writer, and we had the challenge of taking the characters Zula Hendricks from Aliens Defiance, and we've got I guess some parts of Ripley's daughter, and like having to carry on that sort of like strength for Zula. She's someone with an invisible disability. She's also someone who suffered from trauma, who kind of like lost her chance with being in the Marines out of like some sort of accident. And she has to kind of really find her strength to push back and to rebel. She's put in so many situations where Weyland-Yutani just obviously want to eliminate her. She's kind of taken her being kicked out of the Marines not a sign of giving up. She still wants to fight the xenomorph threat. She still wants to keep battling. And so when we continued her in Alien Inferno's Fall, she had just finished her character in the comics. So she had been through like a lot of stuff. She's saved a kid who was trafficked. She saved another Marine. She's also found a companionship with Davis, the android, and we find out in Inferno's fall that he kind of made a daughter for her. So then we have a alien human, not alien human, sorry, android human being who is like, in a sense, part human, discovering her humanity. And then she's also very much like her mother and resilient, and going through like her discovery of herself. I feel like we also see the legacy of Ripley, her discovering herself, figuring out where she is in the world, because of this character Zula, kind of like being the first, I guess, one of the first people of color who is also like Ripley. Like, that representation meant so much to me when I first encountered her in Defiance, and then to go into an explorative role of motherhood, where like initially I didn't think that we could do a story like that. I just didn't think that it would be something that would be even considered. But with like all the dawning of AI and the fact that, you know, we're going to be very much integrated with them soon, it's really one of those things where she's kind of indelibly made a mark on all of the franchise. We've seen her representation in like Noomi Rapace in Prometheus. We've seen her in Alien Covenant through Daniels. We've definitely seen her in like kind of even other types of iterations in other franchises, like in Predator. We see really tough women. I don't think that or AVP, I don't think that would have happened without Ripley, without her, seeing her in Aliens, with seeing her in Alien 3, you know, like, because of all of these characters before her and characters into the future, Kaylee Spaney, who's going to be part of the new film, we're going to see like hopefully so many more like women in the franchise, the continuation of that strength, and also like, I guess, seeing that strength in that sense of vulnerability, like as Shiromi, you may know, in Into Charybdis, and how it was really tough for the whole team to kind of like pull through that sort of threat. And for, I don't want to do any spoilers, but when one of the characters dies, who you think is like the main person, you've kind of like, what the heck? Like, what just happened? And then you have like a Hicks type character going forward and driving the story. And then, you know, and then something happens to that character, and then you're left with someone who is also like female, not female, human, not human. It's something that like her legacy transcends humanity, transcends womanhood. Yeah, it's so hard to say like what her mark has been, because, you know, she's the final girl. We've seen her in everything. And I feel so honored to be, you know, working in the Alien universe, to have all of this like great feminine representation, ideas of feminism and how it's done in the world, with like respecting her, taking her as an equal, taking her at her word, seeing her as a person who is capable and not trying to like sugarcoat things or wrap her with cotton wool. I think in a lot of senses, like we are all kind of like that. We want to have that equal footing. We want to be believed. We want to be supported, and we want to be feared. I think the alien queen screaming, the guys in Alien 3, like, you know, like realizing that she's absolutely kick-ass, or when you know, John was like, oh, holy shit, she's actually kicking my ass, and I'm losing my masculinity as she goes on through the film, you know, like all of that sort of stuff. It is great. It's been a great influence on my life. I'm sure it's been a great influence on a lot of people. And yeah, that's that. I think that's all.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, first of all, let's just address the whole Into Charybdis thing. Thank you, Alex White. I must have like noted down in my notebook as I'm pre-reading the book several times. Oh, this is the main character. Oh no, that character died. Okay. Is this the main character? It's very difficult. But I think true to Alien, certainly. Well, you didn't know that this fairly quiet second in command is going to become, you know, the main character, the one that survives. Her legacy. That's an interesting one. I mean, for one thing, we definitely would not have the kinds of characters in movies that we have today. I'm not going to, you know, reiterate everything that Clara already said, but you know, we wouldn't have these types of characters. Even, you know, James Cameron, would we have a Sarah Connor without an Ellen Ripley? I don't know. Probably not. But then that also got me thinking about the whole kind of fake strong female characters that are still kind of out there. And it's like, okay, yeah, no, strong female characters aren't just about girl power. And that's something that Ellen Ripley, you know, definitely embodied for a lot of us. You know, it's about, you know, taking charge when the going gets tough. It's about making your voice heard when no one will listen to you, and standing by your instincts and going against the grain when you have to. Those are all the things that stick with me, and you know, that have hopefully influenced me in my life. And I do think, though, that we see those, and we wouldn't have it in entertainment if not for Ellen Ripley. Certainly for me, it's what influences me as far as what types of stories I want to tell, both as a narrator, and I also write too. So in both of those aspects, you know, I don't intentionally go looking for the strong female character, but that's what, you know, that's what I connect with. It's always been the thing that I've been drawn to. There are genres that I don't particularly care for, and I think that's because, generally speaking, they don't have great female characters. I'm thinking in terms of like, generally, in terms of like Westerns and like gangster movies and stuff. I mean, they are strong in different ways, and, you know, they're vulnerable and stuff, but, you know, in the end, it's all about the men in those genres. You know, thank goodness for Ellen Ripley, though, because if not for Ellen Ripley, I certainly probably wouldn't be a geek. I didn't know any better. I watched I watched Aliens and then Alien when I was so young. I didn't know that you know, sci-fi and was a guy's thing. You know, it was my love, and Ellen Ripley embodied that for me.
Well, there is a certain amount of sexism in the film. The guys have pinups everywhere, and being a woman officer, I get a certain amount of guff from the guys. And I think it's a very important element to show the workplace as a real place. I think all the Alien movies do that, actually. They're not up in the clouds science fiction. They're not cerebral. They're very kind of down and dirty and about survival and really about who people are. You find out who people are very quickly when you all have to face a common enemy. And it's true that you know, Ripley didn't react to a lot of this sexism or whatever. She kept her cool, and I think that was something that was good for women to see. You know, that she didn't depend on anyone else. She didn't whine. She didn't complain. She just did her job, and in doing so also tried to save other people.
I totally agree with that. Being a geek myself, playing tabletop games and being around guys, there is this one guy who was a GM who would purposely put all of the girls in really awkward, confronting positions as we would feel in real life. So we were actually having to challenge this misogyny in the game. And I was like, why? Why are you doing this? Like, why are you picking on all of us? It didn't seem interesting. It didn't seem challenging. It didn't seem right. And at that point, and I believe you do, Shiromi, you're like, this isn't fair. And we have a sense of what's fair because of Ripley. And we have the guts to get up and walk away and like, you know what? I'm not taking this crap. See ya. We've got better places to be respected as equals. Well, there are game groups out there where, you know, guys treat girls like normal people. And I do appreciate that. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Shiromi. I'm so there with you.
Julianna, what about you?
I think, yeah, the reason that we're still talking about her and that she's so iconic is because she is so multifaceted. You know, she's so human in that way. That's, you know, we are really complex, nuanced creatures, but it's hard to capture that in a character, you know? And so I think she does feel more human than most. And I think as well, as a result, it means that, you know, as you're going through different things in life, you know, you become aware of different things and maybe your focus shifts. And so different traits of hers come to the forefront. And, you know, different traits might be aspirational or relatable. You know, like the thing of like holding the enemy within herself. Like I've, you know, definitely been my own worst enemy and been the thing getting in my own way. But it was a long time before I even realized that, you know? And then you realize that and you're like, oh shit, okay, what do I do about this? And then you have to go on that journey. And so then you connect with different parts of her journey, you know, also with where you're at in yours, which I love. And I think that, yeah, she is so complex that I hope that with the characters that I play that I can also find such nuances, you know, and especially because there are quite a few things where I am in militaristic roles and they're not always as nuanced as she is, you know. So how can I try and bring more of that in, or even in characters who live in completely different worlds, you know, who maybe don't have access to her strength on the page? How do I bring that in? You know, it gives you food for thought. And, you know, for me, I have the privilege of being able to do that both in my personal life and in my professional life. And, you know, playing Micah was possibly the most fun I've ever had playing a character, because she had, yeah, a lot of that complexity within her. And it was really exciting, and the team that we had together helped create that with me, and it was such a wonderful experience. So I feel so blessed to have been able to have that, which wouldn't have happened without Ellen. So yeah, feel very grateful, and yeah, look forward to seeing what the future holds and how I can use that to help hopefully create interesting characters as well.
That's fabulous. And just a testimony, the fact that you are all so entrenched in this fandom and part of it. I love what you said, Shiromi, about like you didn't know that this wasn't supposed to be for you, right? I mean, not that it wasn't a written rule, but I felt the same. Like, what do you mean girls can't like this? Like, I like it. You know, it was never a thing where I thought I was doing something like wrong or sneaky, or I wasn't supposed to do it. And it's just these voices that I think get amplified, right? That tell people you're not supposed to, or this isn't for you. And I'm curious, because it's a great jumping off point. since I've been on the podcast, especially, but even just in general, I always felt like I was very alone in this universe. And even just with being online, I do notice, I don't know if you notice the same thing, I do feel like this particular fandom tends to skew very male, a lot of men versus women. And on one hand, I love it because I love that so many men value this universe where pretty much all films and so many of the books have a strong female protagonist. I think that's a great sign that they are accepting of that. But on the other hand, I'm wondering I'm just curious, what do you think their takeaway from, like, what do they get from this fandom that maybe we're getting something else? Maybe we're viewing it from a different lens. And why do you think that is?
I think I'll take this one. Shiromi's smiling because she knows. As a female creator, we tend to get a lot more scrutiny, and sometimes it's not even it's about our work, but I feel like they wouldn't make that comment if it was a guy. And they don't have any fear of their opinions and making them known, negative or positive. So I think that for me, having to be in the fandom where some people may not be as receptive to my version of the alien universe or receptive of myself, I have to hold my own. More than anything, I think I can definitely point out, excuse me, Alien is a feminist franchise. There's a female lead. There is no doubt in, women here. And so you to belittle me is a bit, weird. Like, where is that disconnect? How is that not carrying across that we do know as much as you? Like, I remember having a post on Reddit when I first joined the Alien fandom. I was so excited to meet people. And then people couldn't believe that I actually liked Alien films or that I was a fan. They said, oh, you must be a fake fan, go away, like whatever. But I didn't disappear. I ended up getting bigger and bigger to the point of where people couldn't ignore me. And now I'm writing the books and in a lot of cases consulting on a lot of stuff as well. It's really great. I feel like also 20th Century Studio and Titan coming back to me and wanting me to do more work. I'm like, stuff you. I'm good too. I'm a girl and I love Alien and I'm not ashamed of it. And, I don't know everything, but I do know the people who would know a lot, who treat me as an equal. Like, for me, there are local Alien fans that I hang out with, 2 guys, James and Phil, and they treat me like an equal. There's none of this banter or sexism or joking, like, oh, we were just joking. There's none of that. Like, they are like 100% really great buddies. We go to conventions together. We get together and watch Alien films. And it's never, it's like our friendship passes the Bechdel test. But they don't have to be women for that. We literally talk about what it's like for womanhood and with Ripley. And it's just, it feels great. It feels great to be able to have that conversation and not feel like they're looking down on us. And a lot of the feedback that I've had online is very scathing. They were scathing of Shiromi, who I think she's done absolutely fantastic work. The voice work Into Charybdis, especially the parts with Cameron, and of course, the attacks. It really I had tears coming out of my eyes, and Danny, Alex for writing such such really like gut-wrenching scenes, but like, like how can someone listen to that and go, oh yeah, I didn't like the voice, or oh yeah, I didn't like the way you wrote that character. I'm like, okay, that's great. Thanks for buying the book and buying the audio book. We appreciate your support, and I hope you buy the next one. But yeah, that's what I think about it. Like, I love the guys in the fandom, but there are certain people who have very toxic responses, who then kind of make me question, like, why do I do this job? Like everyone must hate me. But then I'm reminded about, like it's not everybody. There are still like absolute diamonds in the Alien fandom. There's people like Jamie who like goes and seeks out, women representation in the podcast. There are people who work in like, 20th century studio and Titan who want to engage with like women creators and get us more present, to get us that like, I guess, not pedestal, but to be able to stand up and be part of the creation of Alien. There was a bit of a scarcity before. Like, we did have a few female authors, female comic book artists, but it wasn't something that was like, oh, like she's doing this. This is amazing. It was like, oh yeah, well, this is the daughter of someone, or this is like someone who knows someone, and that's why they're doing it. They're not doing it because, they're really into it or they're part of it. So yeah, it's just, for me, definitely it's been a range of emotions when it comes to the fandom. But yeah, like at the end of the day, I feel like I can really stand on my own, like to be surrounded like by amazing people like you, Andie, like Shiromi, like Julianna, and having all of the female representation there. I don't feel so alone. I feel like we're part of a team and we can stand up for each other.
Absolutely. And I can attest to the men on the podcast are gems. And I'm not just saying that. So I feel the love there for sure.
When they first heard about this thing, it was crew expendable. The next time they sent in Marines, they were expendable too. What makes you think they're gonna care about a bunch of lifers who found God at the ass end of space? You really think they're gonna let you interfere with their plans for this thing? They think we're crud, and they don't give a fuck about one friend of yours that's died. Not one.
Julianna or Shiromi, you want to step in? Anything to add?
So yeah, similar experiences to Clara. Yeah, gosh, I learned pretty quickly not to look at the reviews. Someone was like, oh, she sounds like she's 12. Oh, thank you very much. I'm in my 40s, but thank you. Or where'd they find this one? This was like right after I got nominated. My publisher put me forward for an award for Into Charybdis. So it's like, yeah, they brought me back for another book because they believed in me, but thanks very much. So yeah, there are a lot of that, and it's sad. I don't really know where that comes from. I was having a conversation with my husband about it. I was like, well, is it a genre thing? I feel like horror has more women, but overall a little bit more women than sci-fi's, and Alien is horror, but I don't know. Is it the sci-fi, the action thing that attracts more of a male audience? I don't know, honestly, what they're getting out of it. It's that they can watch something with a female lead, clearly, and still complain because of the female narrator, the female author, the ideas that are, so abhorrent to them. It's sad, but I did sort of question, do I want to keep doing these books? Because I'm just going to keep getting, these kinds of reviews. But, Alien is mine. You don't get to take that away from me. The first time when I got offered to do Intercryptus, the first thing I did, after checking my schedule, I had really squeezed that one in and shift some stuff around. But the first thing I did was I took a picture of my shelf, which has, a pulse rifle and all of these figures and stuff on it. And I sent it to the casting director because she was like, I don't know if you're a fan of this franchise. So they don't get to take that away from me just because they clearly have other ideas about what Alien is to them. And thankfully, it isn't all people. My all male game group. I remember a few years ago when all the, I guess the license, I don't know, they started licensing out all the board games, and so they started to be like Aliens board games, the card games and stuff like that. And we were all genuinely, all of us, very excited, all of us doing lines from the movies and things like that. It's a part of me, and they don't get to take it away from me.
Had a little talk. How's Kane?
He's holding, no changes.
And our guest?
Well, as I said, I'm still collating, actually, but I have confirmed that he's got an outer layer of protein polysaccharids. He has a funny habit of shedding his cells and replacing them with polarized silicon, which gives him a prolonged resistance to adverse environmental conditions. Said nothing.
That's funny. What does it mean?
Please don't do that. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Well, it's an interesting combination of elements, making him a tough little son of a bitch.
And you let him in.
I was obeying a direct order, remember?
Ash, when Dallas and Kane are off the ship, I'm senior officer.
Oh, yes, I forgot.
Yeah, it definitely feels like a huge honor. And it is very exciting when you're in the studio and you're doing it. And I mean, I didn't really know that I was doing it because everything with a lot of video games, it's a lot of code names and stuff beforehand. So you're in the dark and you're looking at the screen and you're like, kind of, is this what I think it is? And then you get into the studio and you're like, aha! So mine was a slightly delayed pleasant surprise. I think it's an interesting question. I don't know. I think I wonder whether, there are qualities that we admire because we see them, for example, in Ripley, that we don't often see in portrayals of women. And I wonder whether they also enjoy that, but with maybe some of the other traits like her empathy and things like that, which maybe you don't see as much of in sci-fi action films, and then that's what draws them in. But I don't know. I wrote some notes. Now I can't read my handwriting. When you were just speaking, Shiromi, I was thinking, maybe we should just make it like mandatory viewing in schools. I went to an all-girls school and we were quite feisty, but I think it still would have done us all good if we'd have been made to watch the Alien films. And hey,
yeah. Well, I am actually a high school teacher, and this was years ago, and I probably would be fired for it now, but it was the end of the year, and I had an all-girls class. It was like 8 girls. And I'm like, guys, we're watching Aliens. I'm like, I know I don't have permit. I'm like, let's just do it. And I talked it up, and they loved it. They loved it. I know. I'm like, I did a job. I'm like, a job well done for me. I patted myself on the shoulder because I think, maybe there was that void, and like there was like late 90s, early 2000s where it was just in pop culture. I just feel like women were being beaten down, like, I don't know, Britney Spears comes to mind, but just in general, it was a lot of like nonsense happening then. And they loved that. And I think you're right. I am going to make it mandatory viewing. Because, and I think both sexes just need to see, I think everyone needs to see it, you know? And I love what you said about maybe they do identify, because I feel like a lot of complaints with female leads now is the whole Mary Sue thing, you know, like they can do everything and they're like, they can kick all, like they can beat the predator. And, you know, maybe there's validity. This is I don't know. I don't take any of that seriously, but I think Ripley brought it all. I think she was feminine. She was not, you know, she was part masculine and feminine. She brought she was just human, right? We all are those things. And I think all of us did identify with that in a way that, you know, maybe we took snippets and they took different snippets, but I think across the board, I think she is well respected throughout. So I think that's another testament to her legacy, is that it's not just us saying girl power. It's not just us valuing her. It's everyone.
There's so much to her that goes beyond gender, you know, and I think that's what makes her so relatable,
right,
to so many people. And also something, I don't know, that made me think of when you guys were speaking, that like with such a large male following, you know, of a very strong woman, I mean, I think there's something to take away from that we should, you know, feel more comfortable in taking our power and having our power, because clearly there are lots of people who can embrace that and admire that and love that. And I don't think that's not been easy for me to do. I'm sure there's, you know, other people, again, regardless of gender, who felt that. But putting the gender on it, that, yeah, there are loads of men who can respect and appreciate that. And so we should feel empowered to respect and appreciate that in ourselves as well.
Yeah, I just want to say that I really love the fact that Ripley is the benchmark for what we want out of female characters. She is the benchmark of, you know, like she doesn't have to have a romantic connection. Like, even though like there was something there with Hicks, there was like that mutual respect, seeing each other as equals. I think that for sure, like going forward, I would like to see more feminism be enacted by the male characters. I think we're in a new kind of century where, you know, we've into Charybdis, we have the trans character who is Marsalis, transforming from human to android to alien. And then we also have like a lot of like other characters who have been through so many challenges that I think that like it can kind of change the minds of the sort of like patriarchy model that we've been brought up with in our lives, and going forward, the power of the matriarchy with the Queen, and the power of Ripley to kind of hopefully like change the minds of people out there. Like, I did know a lot of guys then go and say, like, you know, like, Ripley reminds me of my mum, or Ripley is so strong, I really admire her, or like, I really love like a woman who can stand her own or take charge, and, you know, I don't fear that. Like, I really, really love the people that are like that in this fandom. It's really amazing to have that sort of support, where usually, like, unfortunately, we do expect that we're going to get treated like crap from the guys. But it's always a really nice surprise and a great ongoing friendship and relationship with all of the men involved in Alien general, that we have this sort of like believability that women can do as much as the guys can.
And I love how, you say these are all the things that we hope to see more of. So, which brings me to, I figured, we should probably wrap up soon, unfortunately, but I'm curious if you are excited for the upcoming Alien Romulus film, and if there's, I know since you've all played a role as storytellers in various aspects, is there something that you are looking forward to in the story, anticipating? Is there something you're hoping to see? Are you excited about it?
Shiromi and Clara's faces are so funny right now. So I'm dying to know what these looks mean.
I guess for me, so I watched the trailer and it wasn't for me. But I say that with all honesty. Like I can understand that it's not my generation. I'm a child of the 80s. Aliens, even Alien 3, those were movies that were meant for me. I mean, it seemed totally fine. It was interesting to watch to read the reactions from other people about this movie. And usually it is from the older generation. Even women are just like, this is just nonsense. And I get where they're coming from, because I feel like it's meant for a modern audience. And that means it's not really for me. I can see, as fast as the aliens moving and all this kind of stuff, it's not for my viewing pleasure. It's for a younger generation. So, I mean, I'll probably watch it eventually because it's aliens and I love it. But yeah, I don't know that there's anything necessarily that I'm going to get out of it. And that's fine. It's fine. It's like with Star Wars and stuff. It's like the original trilogy was for me, and I get that. And the newer movies are for the new generation, and that's fine too. We can all exist in the same fandom.
I'm really excited about Romulus. I've been really lucky and privy to what happens in the film. I think everyone should just prepare themselves to be amazed about the new stuff that's coming in. I'm really confident in Kaylee Spaney's ability to be able to take the lead in this film. I believe that there are a lot of scenes where the role of women in Alien is going to be tested. Like, this is a new version of horror. And if you've seen any of the director's other work, you know that he's going to put these female characters through a lot of pain, but it's not going to be for nothing. It's going to be for character development. It's going to be for, questioning our humanity. And it's kind of going to be really great that another generation, like I'm 42, when Alien Resurrection came out when I was like a teenager in high school, to be able to, like, I think I'll be able to actually watch this new film with my daughter like a lot sooner, because like we watched Alien Covenant together and the behind the scenes, so she's aware about the special effects. And I'm friends with people who've worked on Romulus as well. And I think that a lot of the stuff that it's going to be in there is going to be very confronting. It's going to be really full on. There's going to be a lot of blood, pain, and gore. But for my 10-year-old daughter, who's very mature and understands these sorts of things, I think that's like our alarm to say that we should wrap this up. So I will. So like for me, I'm looking forward to welcoming all of the new generation to the fandom. I'm excited to talk about the old films with them. I'm excited to talk about the things that are in the new film that remind me of the old film, that remind me of Alien Isolation, which is linked to Defiance, which is linked to Into Charybdis, and I'm just looking forward to like meeting more girls in the fandom who are as geeky as me, or even not, and just let them know that we're there too. Like, they're not alone. And I'm looking forward to Kaylee's performance. I'm looking forward to all of you guys experiencing Romulus. I can't wait to see it on the screen come August 16th. I wish I could fly to the States to watch it, and I hope I can crash on your couch or something when I do go. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to all the new chicks coming into the fandom, and I'm looking forward to schooling all the boys who think that we shouldn't be a part of it. Yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be great.
You absolutely have an invitation. We're planning all of the podcast to meet up in like the Boston, Connecticut, New York area, East Coast. And this goes for like the more the merrier for sure. I am so excited about it as too. And Julianna, are you anticipating it? Do you have high hopes?
I think I was just curious. I'm really curious about it. And now, having heard Clara's review, I'm even more excited. So yeah, I am looking forward to it. And I think that is a really beautiful thing if it is, going to reach out to new audiences and bring them in. And it will be interesting to see, like you're saying, Shiromi, how that intersects, I guess, and with the different fans, and then just curious to see the different responses. So yeah, I am looking forward to it.
I just want to kind of open it up to you. Is there anything else you'd like to add? Anything else you'd like to touch upon? I know it's getting late, and we've been talking a while. I have thoroughly enjoyed talking to you. I think you've all brought such unique aspects, things I've thought about before, things I have not. And I love whenever somebody can bring in something new like that. I've been a fan for a really long time. So I think this might be the first time I've only ever had a conversation with other women about it. So that was refreshing to me. I want to thank you so much for all of your contributions, just in the fandom in general. You've all made indelible, lasting impacts. And I thank you for that. And I'm really looking forward to hearing about what you've got coming up. Before I shout it out, is there anything else you'd like to bring up? Or is there a place that people can find you if they want to catch up with your work or what you're doing next?
For me, Alien Seventh Circle is coming out on the 31st of October. So make that part of your Halloween purchase, to either scare yourself, scare others, or set on fire, depending on, what your views are of my contributions to the Alien franchise. I have also did some writing with the Alien Encyclopedia that's going to be coming up around then as well. And I've also been helping behind the scenes with another thing, which I can't mention, but I'm really looking forward to that coming out. I'm just excited to possibly hear Shiromi's voice again on another Alien project. And I hope, Julianna, this is not your last time to dip your foot in the franchise, because I think you're talented, and I would love to see you in a different sort of role, and to hear your voice again. And yeah, Andie, like I felt really bad leaving Perfect Organism, and I remember when I spoke to you about what it's like joining the podcast, and I was just like, just have fun. Like, the guys, it's just all fun. You just nerd out and be yourself. And people will love you, and they do. You're amazing.
Thank you.
It's really great to hear you on the podcast despite, the other guys love them too. But it's always refreshing and great to have a female's perspective on the sort of topics that you guys discuss. And it's good to continually have that representation there in the fandom for yourself.
I appreciate that so much. And I also, I appreciate your words of encouragement. I was nervous. I did have doubts crawling through my brain. And you definitely put me at ease. And I really do appreciate it. I value everything you do. You are welcome, as all of you are, anytime. I loved this conversation. Yeah, so what else can we look forward to? Julianna, what do you have coming up?
I have a few films that are going to be coming out. I've lost track of either. Maybe this year. I don't know. There's such a big gap between when you shoot and when things come out, and then because of the strikes and stuff, things have been pushed back. But I think a couple of them are coming out this year. I'm thinking the one with Miles Teller and everyone is, I'm guessing, next year. I'm not sure. I'm also working on 3 video games. I'm just about to start a 4th one. The first of which will be coming out at the end of this year, but can't talk about what any of them are, sadly. But they're very cool. They're very different, which is really, really fun. And yeah, if people want to find me, then I'm just on Instagram under my name. So
great. And just as a side note, on that film that you worked, did you get to meet Sigourney? Did you get to work with her in any scenes?
Sadly not. Just with Miles. But that's okay too. Yes. I didn't make him feel bad about it,
And Shiromi, what do you have coming up?
That I'm allowed to talk about. I don't know. I don't have any Alien books at the moment, but I'm kind of hoping that I will, because the last time I did a podcast, I said I didn't have an Alien book. Like a week later, I got one. So who knows? Let's see. What can I talk about? I have a book coming out in June that I'd love to talk about, but it's, I think, currently embargoed. But it's just this amazing sci-fi novel, and the author's first debut novel is currently like getting nominated for like all these awards, Hugos and Nebulas and stuff. And that is all I'm going to say about that. Do your research. You might be able to figure it out. I just wrapped up this wonderful science fiction dystopic love story series. It's not a romance, but love is definitely a central theme in it. And it's just a beautiful series. The most recent book is Free Set, but the series is called the Four Cities series by Serena Darlin. And yeah, that just came out just the other day. Yeah. So that's me. You can find me on social media, on Instagram, and trying to do more TikTok. We'll see. But I did want to say, Andie, thank you again for this, because as we were sitting here, I suddenly realized that I haven't actually had an aliens conversation with like all women since I was a kid. Like, when it was like me and my sister and my friends. But it's been a long time. So this was wonderful.
Yeah, same.
Thank you.
I dawned on me halfway through too. Like, I can't remember the last time. So it has meant the world to me. I thank you again for sharing your time. I know we're all different places in the world, and different timelines. I would love to do this again. The invitation's always open. And those of you at home, thank you for listening and supporting the podcast. We've got a lot of good stuff coming up, especially since Romulus is coming out. Maybe we can all have a chat about it afterward from our perspective, see how it went. But I would love that. But thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure, and have a wonderful weekend.
It's been amazing. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. It's really amazing to meet you properly, Shiromi, and to see you in the flesh, Julianna. And it's great to talk to you again, Andie. Thank you for having us.
It's wonderful to meet you all again.
Final report of the commercial starship Nostromo. Third officer reporting. The other members of the crew: Kane, Lambert, Parker, Brett, Ash, and Captain Dallas are dead. Cargo and ship destroyed. I should reach the frontier in about 6 weeks. With a little luck, the network will pick me up. This is Ripley, last survivor of the Nostromo. Signing off.